Someone wants to talk more about this? Well, I want to explain that it was interesting to explain what happened yesterday in the context of this information of how it is conceived. This strategy of non-conventional war, and talking about Venezuela, I think one of the first calls we received yesterday of support, of solidarity, of comprehension was that one of the brother president Nicolás Maduro of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. So we have media issue and the warming up in the social networks. It was present in everything that happened yesterday. So we have seen that in the last weeks the campaign increased in the social networks against the Cuban revolution. So talking about some matrix regarding the problems we've had, because that's the way they do it, trying to create some insatisfaction that reaches to the protest after manipulating the feelings of the population. And we have to see how in this campaign they used all the YouTubers and all the influencers they could in the social networks, including some artists that started trying to lift the blockade, and then I think she was pressured and she said that I was a tyrant, were some of those words they used against us. So I was watching yesterday in what all these people were saying, these people who were protesting, but I want to highlight that not all of them are against the revolution. There is a minority of the people against the revolution that try to manipulate all these actions, but we have revolutionary or not process people who are insatisfied, with lack of information, and also with a will of speaking out as peculiar a problem. But that media was targeted to the energy problem that we already explained, which is a reality, to the lack of supply of food and medicine, and to the problems of the hard currency shocks. We have all those problems. What's the origin of all those problems? What's the main cause? It is the blockade. So it is a hypocrite discourse. It is a discourse of lies, a manipulating discourse. We explained how the blockade affects the energy system. We know how the blockade limits us the obtention of hard currency, and we have to buy food with that hard currency. We need more than 2 billion in hard currency to buy food, but we have to buy supplies for agriculture, we have to buy pots, we have to buy fertilizer, we have to buy more things for the agriculture. And then Vice Minister Alejandro will give economic data. The blockade has limited us to acquire medicine or the raw materials with which we produce medicine. The effort the country is doing to manufacture medicine, it is incredible. We would need about $1.5 and $1.9 billion to buy medicine. And do you know how we achieved that? We achieved that with an investment of 300 million, because we are capable of producing most of the medicine, of the basic medicines. So with 300 million, we do practically the same of what we should have done if we used the $1.9 billion, and we have allocated some of those incomes to face the pandemic and to develop the vaccines. And I see how in the world, how the countries that have developed vaccines, they talk about billions and billions allocated to the program vaccines. I say to our scientists, I will not even ask how much you have used, because there's data that is not recorded, which is the will that those scientists have, and with that they have produced vaccines. But also, to produce vaccines we need more supplies, and we lack certain components that we are seeking to have in the last possible time. The production and all the doses we have for our population, and also to give to the world. And we have the problem of the hard currency shops, and we have explained why we have used that measure. If we do not have money, not even to supply the national currency shops, so we have to take part of the hard currency in the country, and also to have more offers and more supply in the shops for the population. And we have actually used that, but as part of the restrictive measures, and as we were included in the list of countries that support terrorism, then we have not exported the hard currency we have collected, and that has caught the financial flux. So everything we do to work for the population, to improve the population, is what they have. I mean, they have targeted those efforts. And then they say they use the speech in the social networks, fostering all these insatisfactions, using all these topics, working with the sentiments and with the insatisfaction of the people, which are very clear. That's why one of the things that we have to do with the population is always to have a sense. It is legit to have insatisfactions, but we also have to be capable of visualizing, of defining where they want to use the manipulation, if they want to separate us. All these people who want to be portrayed as saviors of the Cuban population, they are not interested about the health of the people, about the food we need. They want to change a system or a regime, as they called it, to impose what kind of government, what kind of regime in Cuba, the one of privatizing the public systems, the one that creates possibilities to the minority and not for the majority. That government that does not take into account the interests and the needs of the people. It is hypocrite and cynical speech that blockade me, that carry out the policy that violates the human rights of the people for more than 60 years. You strengthen that in the midst of a complex situation as the pandemic, and you present yourself as a savior. Leave the embargo and the 240 measures, and let's see what these people is capable of doing, which has done a huge social labor with an economy subordinated pretty much to a war economy. Are you afraid of the example of Cuba? Of what Cuba could do in other situations? Why you are not capable of living civilized in a relation with a country, even having ideological differences? We are not a threat to the United States. We do not care what could happen within the conception of how the government and the US people to have their own governmental system, but we demand to be respected. The self-determination, the sovereignty, and the way that most of the people have accepted to defend socialism. So those campaigns, those acts are not good. And that's echoed in a sector that we have to talk about that. It is part of our problems, but there is a sector that creates some problems. And yesterday we saw criminals, the attitude that of pacific demonstrations. We have thousands of ways in a pacific way in which the revolutionary, where the unsatisfied revolutionary people can talk. But yesterday, the proposal was not pacific. Yesterday we saw vandalism. Yesterday they stoned shops. They stole articles in those shops. They took electrical equipments. Yesterday, the police officers were stoned. An indecent behavior. Criminals. Today we see the campaigns of those that in certain moments never denounced the government, and for so much critique they had, the social networks have modified their speech, and now they talk about the blockade. But they say that we do not look for a political solution, summoning the people to face the people. So we didn't do that. We called on the people to defend their rights, defend the revolution, and the people supported. So the people is conscious of that. But we have not fostered anyone to use a violent position. But what happened is that they faced the people with violence, and the people defend itself and defend its rights. And with all this, they want to fracture and separate the people, state, the government, the party. Many times they say, no, we will favor the non-state sector to avoid the participation of the state. Well, they have not favored the private sector with the blockade. This speech is fractured with the way they do the things, which is a total lie.